Ladies and gentlemen, I'm running.
p.m. right on the dot. Welcome. I'd like to call the meeting to order. No, it's on. Turn me up. My friends in the closet over there. They can only come out when we give them permission. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Gates, I don't have any cards, no public comment. Okay, I would ask for approval of the minutes of the meeting of February 15th, 2018.
So moved.
Second, any additions or corrections? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll have a couple of reports. This has been a busy month, and particularly we jumped back in from spring break with lots of activities. I'm going to ask Gina to show us some pictures of a variety of events. Mrs. Ayala, you can see her in the back. She can't be with us tonight. Riley is becoming a full-fledged Boy Scout, and I told her she had a pass to go to that ceremony. But she went to the STEM ceremony and was so impressed. I think she told me there were 12 PhD women in the group, and she found that very impressive. And then this is a South Campus Symposium, and several of our faculty and students were there. There's Miss Light and Carolyn Robertson. All these are celebrating Women's History Month. The DeSoto Mayor, McCowan, spoke at this event. Excuse me. And then yesterday, Mayor Betsy Price spoke to a room full of students, and don't leave this, I have to explain the bandana, of young women and faculty. And at the end, Miss Martinez-Eggers did a piece on Rosie the Riveter, and she had bandanas, there she is, that she'd managed to tie into her hair, and so she had all of us put one on us, and she taught us the Rosie the Riveter song, and we had a good time. The mayor had left before that little activity, but that was the Trinity River campus. And then there's Miss Eggers there in the middle. And she made us all do the flex sign. So we ended the event on a pretty silly note, but fun. Dr. Giovannini did not do the flex sign. But I'm going to have him tell you he did a Johnny Carson bit on the group. You want to do that again? Give them the answer and see if they know the question.
So it was obviously in celebration of Women's History Month, and gave an opening and told the group, I'm going to give you the answer, and you have to come up with a question. And the answer was Seneca Falls, New York.
Okay.
Anyone in here know?
Look,
Suzanne?
Miss Seneca Falls.
In the United States.
Home of what?
Suzanne.
Home of the women's suffrage movement. That's correct. That's one correct answer. The second correct answer is my hometown.
No bonuses this year. Okay, and then we had one more event today that we have a photo of. Representative Matt Krause and Nicole Collier, along with Evan Smith of the Texas Tribune, did a Q&A on Trinity River campus today. That's kind of interesting. And no one got mad at anybody. I think that's it, right, Gina? Thank you. So lots going on in addition to everything else that you do. Mr. Heed, our representative to the TCC Foundation, is going to give us a brief report about their meeting yesterday.
Yeah, we had a meeting yesterday afternoon. I think the first item of business was that, and it reflects back on, four of us went to a conference for foundations in Los Angeles, and one of the things that we brought back from that was that we needed more alignment between this board and the foundation board. And one of the suggestions is to re-examine the MOU that we have. And I know the foundation has started on their side, and we need to do that just to make sure that we're both aligned in terms of mission and activities and so forth. And so we get to know each other a little better as to what we're trying to accomplish, and to help each other, of course. They did say their 990, their tax return was filed, which is very important. Next, they went into the investments, and this is through the end of the 31st of January, was it? February, December, okay, the end of the year, fiscal year. And the foundation on their funds earned net of all fees earned 17.06%, which is incredible. On the college funds, because it was under the PFIA and some other things, earned less than 1%. Now, bottom line is that, number one, we don't expect to earn 17% each and every year. That was an extraordinary period of time for the stock market and for investments. But since inception, Northern Trust in the last 6 years has earned a little less than 8% on the funds that the foundation had invested through Northern Trust. Northern Trust is the largest and most respected of all the firms that invest foundation money. So the funds are in a good place, and so they look at risk factors and so forth. But 8% beats the heck out of 1%. And what that means going forward is that the funds, our mineral funds that now we've transferred to let the foundation invest under the new guidelines with the new law, will earn a substantial amount more money, which is dedicated for scholarships for Tarrant County College students, 100% of it. So it really bodes well for the future for our students. So that's a very important factor. And the last thing is that the foundation has been working on a strategic plan, and this is the fourth stage of it, and it's not finished, but we're narrowing it down to 3 areas that the foundation is going to be working on. So, thank you.
Any other comments from the trustees? If not, we'll move on to our presentation of the evening.
Good evening, Mrs. Appleman, Chancellor Giovannini, board members. It is with great pleasure that I introduce Dr. Tony Roberts. He's professor of philosophy and world religions, and he will be giving the presentation today representing the faculty for the entire district.
Greetings. Is this on? All right. When you get my age, you need extra help. So I always carry an extra brain to my class, and this will relate this evening. This is my area of interest, in particular of neurophilosophy. We're going to talk about critical thinking. Well, as you can tell by my age, I'm a child of the 60s. And in the 60s, we didn't have a problem with critical thinking. Right? It was the air that we breathed, and we protested and contested everything. But in the late 70s, 80s, there was a shift around the world, not just in the United States. We were a little uncertain. We saw the rise of fundamentalism. We saw the rise of economic and social conservatism. In academics, this was when we saw the rise of standardized testing and standardized outcomes. Everything was standardized. We wanted to make sure that this contesting and protesting of the 60s didn't get out of hand. And so our educational system reflected that. And now we're back here a couple of decades after the turn of the century, after the turn of the millennium, and we're going, don't we need some protest? Don't we need some contest? Don't we need some new creative thinking? Where's the critical thinking of the 60s? And so now that's the hot topic in education, is where is the critical thinking? Are we seeing that? Perhaps this is an emerging crisis, we are told, in critical thinking. What are we going to do about it? Do we change our classes, change our teaching methodologies? Study after study is indicating that students are not learning how to think critically in colleges. Oh my. And a lot of this uproar started around 2010, 2011. Look at this remark, a very influential book coming out of California entitled Academically Adrift, Limited Learning on College Campuses. That sounds alarmist. Critical thinking and other skills such as writing are no longer progressing during college as compared to previous generations of students. And to prove their point, they cited test results from the CLA Plus critical thinking test that was used, piloted around the country. The CLA test is given during the freshman year, and it's again given during the senior year. And we look for improvements. Is there been improvement in critical thinking? And this is what we have found. To the left, we find those colleges that show the most improvement. The great Plymouth State University. Oh, and those colleges that did the worst, Harvard, Yale, UCLA, oh my. University of Texas was a negative score. University of Kentucky, the Citadel, my alma mater, the University of North Carolina, down on the right-hand side. What's going on here? What is it where the greatest universities in the country are showing negative results? And then people began looking a little bit closer at the test itself and its standardized computer recognition of sentence patterns and so forth. And today, the University of Texas and the University of North Carolina and UCLA don't use this test anymore. Not because they got a negative review, but because there were problems with the test and problems with how it was analyzed. But most recently, the Wall Street Journal indicates, well, look at the title of the article. Recent graduates unprepared for white-collar jobs. What do you mean unprepared? Well, on average, students make strides in their ability to reason, but because so many start at such a critically thinking deficit that many still don't have the ability to read a scatter plot, construct a cohesive argument, or identify a logical fallacy. Oh my. Now, as a philosopher, I have to ask questions about the questions. And one is critical thinking only required in white-collar jobs? And also, look at the first line. Students show great ability in reason. Well, if critical thinking isn't reason, what more is it? Well, obviously, we have to know how to read a scatter plot and know how to identify logical fallacies. Can you name some logical fallacies? Do you know the difference between a modus ponens and a modus tollens argument? Do you know what a scatter plot is? Okay. Thank you. Exactly, you know. So obviously the Wall Street Journal thinks that there is crisis here because our students can think and they can reason, but they can't read a scatter plot, and therefore we're in crisis. Well, I will agree that there is some deficit in critical thinking, but perhaps we're defining critical thinking in different ways. We don't know what we're measuring, perhaps. So I want to take us to the source of critical thinking, not in pedagogy, but in the brain. This brain that you and I have is an amazing thing. It's an amazing organ, unlike any of our other organs. Your brain has roughly 100 billion nerve cells. It's about 3 pounds, and it's roughly the consistency of thick yogurt, a mass of goo. And each one of those nerve cells has branches like trees and roots. And those branches and trees and roots connect up with other nerve cells. Each branch has about 10 to 100,000 connections. And each of those connections can connect with 10 to 100,000 other nerve cells. So if any of you are mathematicians in the room, Brian, mathematicians, we do a combination here. How many conversations are going on inside your head right now? 100 billion times 10,000. About 10 trillion inside your head right now. It's quite extraordinary. Well, what is this mass of goo, what is it good for? It's basically a survival organ. It keeps us surviving. Inputs and outputs, and it does critical thinking. It is quite natural. Your brain does not need to be taught critical thinking. The brain of a mouse does critical thinking. The brain of a lion does critical thinking. Humans do critical thinking. It's what we do. What is critical thinking? Well, it involves analysis. Analysis simply means to cut apart into tiny pieces, to look and to examine something carefully. A mouse examines something on the ground before it eats it. Animals do that. People do that. Evaluation, to assess the meaning and value of something. From the smallest creature that has a brain to humans, we know how to assess. Before you put something in your mouth to eat, you look at it, you turn it around, you sniff it, and you ask, am I going to put this in my mouth? We know how to evaluate. We know how to apply, to join or affix things in different combinations. And we, more than any other species, are rather creative. Critical thinking is not necessarily something we have to teach. It's natural. So, if it's natural, Professor, then why isn't it happening in the classroom? Why are we in a crisis? It's because our brain, this wonderful organ, does something else to survive. Okay, so we'll go here in just a minute. First, I want to remind you of a statement. This comes from my colleague, Murray Fortner. Murray says, critical thinking appears on the borders of our everyday experience, not as a test in the classroom, but rather as we attest, protest, detest, contest. That's where critical thinking occurs, in our everyday experience, not when we memorize information. So why is it that critical thinking isn't going on in the classroom? Well, back to the brain. The brain does something else to survive, and that is the brain exists not as singular brains, but we exist as groups, as pods, as tribes. And our brains seek out sameness, conformity. There's power in numbers and structure. And it works. We've survived for millions of years. So this rocking back and forth of critical thinking, of testing, of pondering, of changing, also happens with structure and stability and sameness. So what I'm going to suggest to you is we change the narrative in the educational system to not how can we teach critical thinking, but how can we help students navigate this natural rocking back and forth of contesting and protesting with an appreciation for structure and design and order and sameness. TCC is on the pathway of navigating both of these. That's why I call my presentation, and I think much of what we have designed here at TCC is helping students along this pathway rather than teaching them a skill that they don't already know. So, analyze, evaluate, apply, and create must go in Congress with synthesizing and valuing and reusing and replicating. The state has provided us some of these standards, these structures that give us conformity and identity. 60-30, by the year 2030, we hope that 60+% of Texans between the age of, 24 and 35, are going to have a certificate or be a graduate of a program. And that's a good goal to have. We'll come back to that. We have goals of our college. We are one college, many campuses, but we have one identity, and we're preparing students on each campus the same. We have 8 principles that help us achieve those. This is our structure. This is who we are as a campus, one campus with many arms, one state with many campuses. Well, how do we weave critical thinking into these structures? How do we weave the contesting and protesting into the structure and memorization? kinds of things. Go back again. Notice in the 60-30 plan, the third goal, we don't want just to graduate students and hand them a piece of paper. We want them to have marketable skills. Well, what are marketable skills? If you ask students, they come up with things like, well, I need to know how to work my computer, because computers are really important. I need to know how to do a computer program. And yes, those are very important. But if I give you a class on computers and you memorize how to write a computer program, then your education will be obsolete in 2 years, because computers will change in 2 years. Well, some of you who teach computers say, well, it's more like 6 months. So your education will be obsolete if all we're teaching you are skills. So the AACU and the TACCB says these are the most marketable skills. Communication. Can our students communicate? Can they solve complex problems? Are they involved in intercultural skills and exchange of ideas? Do they have the ability to learn and to innovate? What kinds of classes do you find these things going on? Communication, English literature, history, art. You know, I don't know who all the professors I'm speaking with, but the artists are the ones that have changed history, I'm convinced, more than any other. They slip in on the side and provide the creative energy for us where others cannot. It is in the liberal arts education that students are being prepared for that most marketable of skills. Imagine liberal arts, and our students say, well, why do I have to take history and philosophy and artsy stuff? Just let me get to my computer classes. This is what makes you marketable. And look there at the top of the list, critical thinking. Critical thinking, analyze, evaluate, apply, and create. And our college has been on this track for years. About 10 years ago, and then again in 5, when we created a quality enhancement plan. You know, that QEP, enhancement. Not teaching plan, but enhancement plan. You can't go anywhere on our campus without hearing about the quality enhancement. This is an elevator. Look, every time our students get on the elevator, they'll say, well, you've heard of knowledge is power. No. If that were the case, then we just have you memorize a dictionary. This is power. Can you apply? Can you analyze? Can you evaluate? Can you create? All of our lanyards that we wear around our neck, I have my ID here, and on the back side, it's critical thinking, QEP, just in case I forget. Around here. TCC is awash with this goal of critical thinking in all of our classes, even in our architecture. Oops. We have our 3 goals, our 8 principles. For the sake of time, I'm going to call your attention to a few points on these 8 principles that give us the rails, the structure to ride upon. Here, the student experience. We're going to have clear pathways, and we're going to break down barriers. Learning spaces that move beyond the traditional format. Our learning commons are no longer going to be places that just house books. They're going to be places of dialogue. You say, well, Professor, I'm confused, which is normal when you're speaking with a philosopher. I'm confused. You've taught us about critical thinking, but you've pointed us to structural changes in the architecture. Yes, because critical thinking is natural. You just have to provide the brain the environment in which to do it. Critical thinking pathways. All right, here's principle number 2 and 7. Remove the barriers. There's a barrier. This looks pretty much like many of the classes I took at the University of North Carolina. This was my economics class. This was my chemistry class. This was my history class. This was my political science class. This was my linguistics class. 300 to 500 students crammed in small spaces with one sage on the stage standing up front who lectures. The students write down what he says, and they repeat it back. You know, critical thinking is not going on here. This is a barrier. This is breaking the barriers. This is the classroom of the next generation. Where's the teacher? Can you find him or her? I bet you can't. Because what's important there is not the teacher who gives information, but the critical thinking that's going on around the tables. And students are working on common problems, and they all have equal access to the information, the content. And the teacher is there as a guide on the side. Not the sage on the stage. That's not my invention. I don't know where that came from. Notice also that there's no handicap desk at the back of the room in terms of accessibility. Everyone of all abilities has a place at the table, and they dialogue and talk. Look at the structures of the campus. Walkways don't lead us from point A to point B. They lead around and allow for space of dialogue and interaction outside of class. So the inside of the structure looks like the outside of the structure. Isn't this looks like a place where you would work when you got out of school? Let me back. Is that someplace our students are working when they get out of school? No. How do you build marketable skills in a place that doesn't look like where I work? That looks like a place that I would work. That looks like a place where I would work. Critical thinking can happen when we change the spatial architecture. Encounter others. On all of our campuses, our libraries have become learning commons, and the shelves are becoming less and less populated with books. Now, every year, all of our campuses have something called the human library, also called the living library. Have you ever checked out a witch? Have you ever checked out a Muslim? Have you ever checked out a person with a disability? Have you ever checked out a person who's been in the military? At the library, you can for an afternoon, and you can ask them any question you want. They encounter others, and they dialogue with others, and they tell them, this is what I'm learning in class. How would you approach this problem as this? It's the most wonderful thing. This is on the Northwest Campus. Several years ago when things were changing around the world, and I was a child of the 60s, and I wanted to see people protesting, but my students were not protesting. And so I said, well, this is how we can do it. Well, they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to speak up. So I went to the library and I asked them if I could have one of their wall dividers up in the library. And I said, okay, instead of speaking out loud, I want you to bring articles from the newspaper, things that make you mad and angry and just want to ask questions. And here's some note cards. Put it on there, and we called it the Freedom Shout. And they began to write up there, and a strange thing happened in the library once we did that. Other students, will you notice? Students began to gather around, and they said, can I have a note card? I want to post something. And the dialogue about Black Lives Matter began on this board, about women's issues, about social constructs, about films began on this space. This is a learning commons, not a library that just houses books. This is an event we call Speed Dating the World, in which faculty who come from all over the world to teach here sit down at a table with students for about 5 minutes, and they get to ask them any question. Daiju is here from Japan. Daiju, what was it like to grow up in Japan and have an educational system there? You got 5 minutes, the whistle blows, they move to the next table. They hear from a professor from Albania. They hear from a professor from Greece, one grew up in Mexico, one in Russia. Our campuses are diverse, and we want our students to know that and to understand. This is where critical thinking happens. And then they go to the cultural feast, where they feast around the world of different foods and different traditions, different celebrations, and they get to ask questions and touch and feel. And they're taught how to tie a hijab and what does it taste like to eat this kind of hummus or bean soup. I keep turning things on. Then we reward the collaboration. This is what happens with my colleague Mary French, who teaches English. In her class, virtually, not in the classroom, the students go online and they contribute. See, there's a list of terms that you have to know for her class. Well, they're not just memorizing information. You can click on each of those terms, and the students have said, I remember an example of that in this book that we read, so that they're learning to apply the terms in class. So they're preparing for an exam by clicking on each of these terms, and the students contribute to the learning process. They're rewarding each other, and they do better on their test. Here's another one, also in Dr. French's class. Each student is asked to create their own web page in her business or tech writing class. And notice here's that sage, not the sage on the stage, but the guide on the side. See the side remarks over there to the side. This is good. And everybody in the class contributes to this. How can it be better? Oh, I could use that as well. I could apply that in my class. This is Dr. Sheldon's class, speech communication. Speech communication, business communication. Instead of just learning terms in business, they're doing case studies of actual organizations and firms. How did this organization use LinkedIn to improve profitability in the company? And then we model that behavior in the classroom. My colleague, Dr. Burnside, who teaches biology, said, what we're doing in critical thinking is not teaching it, we're simply providing these supports. We're reinforcing them like wire and rebarb. That's the role of the professor, to be the wire and the rebarb. The students provide the content. And it's quite natural because that's what our brain does. This is from our QEPs. These are our common assessment rubrics. Look down the side, the left-hand side. This is how you analyze. This is apply. This is evaluate. This is how you create. And now these are the scores that you can get for each of these behaviors. This is what a perfect score looks like, a 5. This is what a 4 looks like. This is what a 3 looks like. And this is on every campus at TCC. So you have different teachers teaching different subjects, but critical thinking in all its different forms has the same rubric. We are 5 campuses, 1 college. And students, we know how to do this. But this provides consistency. See that structure there for the creativity, rocking back and forth. See, this is not so complicated. We don't need to retrain our faculty. We don't need to have a course called critical thinking. We used to do that, and I used to teach it. In philosophy, you could take an elective called critical thinking, and they took it away. I said, why would you take away something so important? Because, and TCU started us on this bandwagon. They said, we took it away at TCU because critical thinking should be in every classroom. It shouldn't just be an elective. And that's the way it is. Every classroom. TCC is a wonderful place to work. We have great structure. We're on the pathways to success with our 8 principles that on the surface look like we're just changing the architecture around. We're just moving classroom spaces. But that's what it takes to allow this organ to do what it does quite naturally, thinking critically. Thank you for supporting all that we do and all the structures and all the thinking on our campuses.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. Did any of the trustees have a comment or question?
Just awesome presentation. It's fun to listen to engage with you.
Would that all of us enjoy our work as much as he does.
I think he enjoys it so much, he might be willing to give his whole paycheck back. I could just see it.
Oh, I don't know about that. Thank you so much, and Dr. LeBlanc for making it possible. All right, we'll go to item number 6 on the agenda, our 2017 Police Department Annual Traffic Contact Report. Ms. Robinson and Chief Williams, there he is, hiding.
The report shows that we're in compliance, and I didn't know if the board had any questions. We presented this in governance also.
You did, and it was in our written material sent to us. If anyone had a chance to hopefully review it to some extent and have any questions of Chief Williams, we appreciate you and your officers very, very much. Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you.
Item number 7, consideration and approval of contract for paving modifications to accommodate bus service on the Northwest Campus in the amount of $258,640.82. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Dr. Evans, seconded by Mr. Greenhill. Questions of Ms. Petty? Ms. Petty, do you have anything to add to the material we've seen and heard and had?
I think we covered it in governance.
Again, if you're new to us and our meetings, we have a meeting called the governance meeting, and we vet all of the items on the agenda, and staff meets with us and answers a lot of our questions. So that's why we seem so well prepared. All right, motion on the floor with the second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, consideration and approval of purchase of cooling tower for Northwest Campus in an amount not to exceed $200,000. Motion to approve. Mr. Heed.
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Evans. Any questions of Ms. Petty? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9, consideration and approval of multiple equipment purchases to support the medium voltage distribution system on Northwest Campus. $547,385 for transformers, $159,818 for switchgear. Motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Dr. Patrick. Second, Mr. Heed. Questions, comments? You don't want to hear any more about transformers and switchgear? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, consideration and approval of final deductive change order to contract to upgrade building automation system to reliable controls on Northeast Campus. So this is a credit in the amount of $53,887.88. Motion to approve. Mr. Heed wants that one.
Second.
Second by Dr. Evans. Any questions, complaints about a rebate? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11, consideration and approval of Houston Galveston Area Council Cooperative Agreement to provide equipment for emergency power system at South Campus in the amount of $362,098. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Greenhill, seconded by Dr.
Second.
Patrick. Questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 12, consideration and approval of contract to provide space renovation for Records Management Department at the district's multi-purpose center in an amount not to exceed $1 million. Motion to approve.
So
So-
moved.
Dr. Patrick.
Second.
Second, Mr. Greenhill. Questions of Ms. Petty? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, consideration and approval of contract to provide Geographic Information Systems utility mapping for the district in the amount of $336,600. Motion to approve. Mr. Heed.
Second.
By Dr. Evans. Questions?
Ms. Penny would kind of cover the purpose of this and what the savings that we'll get down the road by doing this.
Be delighted to. So this is, the benefits of this is really in design cost avoidance and risk mitigation district-wide. So we did a pilot of this at the Northeast Campus, and we're rolling this out for the whole district, and we feel like this project aligns with one of our principles in supporting our campus character and quality, because we're able to real-time be able to document all our utilities for on-site coordination. And so it's a very important project for our infrastructure, because we've been doing those, as Dr. LeBlanc likes to say, off of the big chief tablet. We don't have to do that anymore. So this brings a lot of value to the table. And again, we tested it at the Northeast Campus, and it was a success. And so this is bringing it to a one-college approach, so we're able to do it for the whole district now.
And this is a program where, as you do new construction, then you'll put that information into the system, and it'll be a permanent record.
Absolutely. We're also using this program to work with our students. So we have actually a student worker that's involved with this, with our vendor. So that's a great thing. So it involves our students.
Other questions or comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 14, consideration and approval of contract to provide ground service for Trinity River Campus, Trinity River East Campus, the May Owen Center, the district multipurpose facility, the Irma Johnson Hadley Center of Excellence for Aviation, and Tarrant County College Opportunity Center in an amount not to exceed $471,150. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Dr. Patrick. Second by Mr. Heed. Questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Ragu. Item number 15, consideration and approval of contract with Insight Public Sector to provide information security assessment in the amount of $148,149.94. Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Mr. Heed.
Second.
Second by Dr. Evans. Questions of Mr. Ragu?
This is this is something real special, I think, and you might want to just cover it in brief again. What,
Sure thing.
You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
process and so forth.
Absolutely. Thank you. This is part of our proactive approach to ongoing information security assessment and risk management of one of our most important assets, which is our students' information. And this assessment will examine, in conjunction with our information security teams, the levels at which and the levels of maturity of our walls of defense, if you will, in terms of how we protect that information, that vital, critical asset. So it's part of our information security program, and it will be an ongoing, it'll have remediation and all those types of remediation plans, and reassessment in the future as well. It's a continuous process.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's real good.
Thanks.
Other questions?
I
Dr.
just wanted to add that I think that the key here is the term proactive. And I think that's very important. And as I did in the governance meeting, I just want to applaud you for that. It's always good to be ahead of the curve rather than behind it and losing information or even losing faith in regard to our student population concerning our heart, concerning their information. So thank you for being proactive in this regard.
Yeah,
Sure thing.
and you bring up a good point. We have courses in cybersecurity, do we not? Are we
Yes.
involving any of our students in this?
In this particular exercise, no, because this is more about our internal systems. There could be themes that we could incorporate into those, but for this particular exercise, we're not including students themselves, because this is about their information and our ability to
Okay.
protect.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Other questions? All those in favor, aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. McClendon.
Good evening. As you look upon this, we have a new, fresh look at finance. We are going to show you it in a different manner, and we hope that this is a presentation that you would like. We've made it much more targeted to just show the differences. Right now, we're in the sixth month of the year, so we would look at things greater than 60%. So right now, the only thing that we want to highlight in income is that income is at 85%. Everything is as we expected, and most tax money have received so far. As far as the expenditures, Finance and myself, we review all the expenditures, and so the only two items that we have not mentioned before that we were bringing to your attention is that we've seen an increase in tax administration, and that's because we went ahead and paid the tax assessor the one-time fee of $1.6 million. This is the organization that does all the collections for us, and they do it based on the number of accounts, and that is a process that we use every year. The other item that we have seen that is increased and brought it is we have seen a little bit higher unemployment claims that we had before, and so that has brought us up to the 70%. If we still look at our total expenditures, we still see that we're at 50% for 6 months. With all the encumbrances and everything, that's exactly where we would want to be. So it is predictable, so that's fine. So now we'd like to move to our investments page. So now we're only going to show you the differences or any changes. So the first thing is we want to say that in our pools, those are items that have less than 1 day, we've an increase of $7.1 million. We wanted to highlight, as I know that all of y'all will be looking at your financial statements and the investments. If you look at that term, the term that was used by the TCC Foundation has now been changed to benefits, interest, and funds held by an affiliate. That's what our external auditors are calling that. And you will also notice that they have no yield because they're stocks. And so, like you pointed out, Mr. Heed, that is with the HRB 1472 has allowed them, and so that's where that benefit will be different than what we have under the PFIA. If we look at short term, there is no activity. When we look at our agencies, we went ahead and bought two 10 million Federal National Mortgage Association securities. Our yield, oh, okay, sorry, she is quicker, very quick. Our yield is 1.53%, and our WAM is 354 days. We wanted to, again, repeat the WAM is the weighted average amount of time until our investments mature. Pools have a 1-day WAM. Short terms would have a 30 to 360-day WAM, and agencies would have 1 to 5 year WAM. Any questions?
Any questions of Dr. McClendon? Comments?
Your
Mr.
yield is going up little by little.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Still below inflation.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Hopefully that summary fashion puts it in perspective a little bit clearer for you rather than looking through a bunch of spreadsheet looking with some highlights here and there. So if that doesn't suffice, you'd like to see something different, certainly let me know. So hopefully that fit the bill. We have a couple staff announcements, and so Dr. LeBlanc, Dr. Madison, and Dr. Coppola in that order, please.
Good evening. I'm very pleased to announce the appointment of Ms. Christy Clemick to the position of Registrar to the Northwest Campus. She comes to Tarrant County College from nearby Grayson College, where she served as the Registrar and Director of College Admissions. Ms. Clemick has 15 years of progressive experience in higher education administration that includes the roles of Director of Admissions, Assistant Registrar, and Admissions Counselor. She also has 9 years of adjunct teaching experience in accelerated 5-week courses in face-to-face and online environments. She has earned degrees from Mount Olive College, North Carolina, and Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary, also in North Carolina. Her degree there was in Master of Arts in Counseling. She is a current member of the North Texas Community College Consortium Leadership and Renewal Academy that we refer to as CLARA. Please help me welcome Christy Clemick.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say that I'm really excited to be here. And so I'm really nervous because this is the first time I've been here in front of this big group. And I hope that my years of experience will be a great benefit to Tarrant and especially to the Northwest Campus. And so excited to be able to work with Dr. Blankenbaker. And it's been nice to be a part of her cabinet and get to learn all the things that Tarrant has to offer. And I hope that I will be a benefit, and I hope that I get to change as many student lives and transform their lives and be a benefit to the community as well. So if you need anything from me, you know where to find me. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Good evening. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce Julie Amon, Dr. Julie Amon. Julie Amon, a passionate student advocate and accomplished leader with more than 20 years of experience in student success initiatives at multiple and varied institutions, recently joined the Tarrant County College Trinity River campus as Vice President for Student Development Services. Dr. Amon comes to us with experience in academic affairs, student affairs, and enrollment management, and understands how those areas intersect to impact student success and degree completion. Most recently, Dr. Amon served as Vice President of Academic Affairs at Paul Quinn College, where she oversaw faculty, the Registrar's Office, academic advising, and other academic support services. From 2011 to 2016, Dr. Amon was Vice Chancellor for Undergraduate Education and Student Success at Rutgers University Camden, where she led a large division and worked to minimize barriers to student success and to change policies and procedures to make it easier for students to earn their degrees in a timely manner. Julie Amon has often focused on the first-year experience in her professional roles, including her more than 9 years as Dean for first-year students, and many years involved with coordinating new student orientation at multiple institutions. In 2011, the National Resource Center for First-Year Experience and Students in Transition named her one of 10 outstanding first-year student advocates. During the course of her career, Dr. Amon led initiatives aimed at improving access and success for students who come from disadvantaged backgrounds, first-generation college students, and transfer students. She also managed partnerships with community colleges that built and strengthened transfer pipelines. Vice President Amon earned her doctorate from the University of Pennsylvania in higher education, with her dissertation research focusing on how men pursuing STEM disciplines perceive the supportiveness of their campus environment. Please welcome Dr. Julie Amen.
Good evening. Thank you very much, President Appleman, Chancellor Giovannini, board members, and also Dr. Madison. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to serve as the Vice President for Student Development Services at Trinity River and to serve the entire Tarrant County College community. This is the 7th institution I've worked at, but it's my first community college, so I'm excited about the opportunity. As you've heard from Dr. Madison, I've been kind of circling around community college work for a long time. When I saw this opportunity, I felt an immediate connection to the students, the role, and to the mission. And the more I researched the position, the more I became interested, and when I saw the success within Reach as the tagline, the 3 goals and the 8 principles, I was sold. And I certainly hoped that my success in landing the opportunity was going to be within Reach, which it ended up being. So when you get to know me, you'll know that I am passionate about student success. I'm always talking about it. It's what keeps me up at night and what motivates me. And I'm always driven to find new ways to increase student learning, student success, and completion. I'm excited to serve our students and our community. I look forward to getting to know everybody and to working with you. And thank you very much for the opportunity.
Dr. Giovannini, Ms. Appleman, members of the board. Renetta Wright has been named as the Southeast Campus Director of Counseling and Advising. She will lead and support various student development support services. Mrs. Wright is no stranger to the Tarrant County College District. Her relationship with TCC began as a high school student. She returned in 2002 and found her passion in student development services, where she impacted students' success in numerous roles as an academic advisor, coordinator of special services, and an assistant director of advising and counseling. Her seasoned leadership experience includes managing, motivating, supporting teams, and implementing success initiatives to increase retention and completion with diverse student populations. Mrs. Wright is a proud graduate of Texas A&M University, holding a Bachelor's of Science degree in sociology. She earned 2 masters. She had so much fun with the first one, she went for a second. Degrees from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. I knew I was going to do that. As much as I rehearsed it, in religion education and marriage and family counseling. I can use the counseling now. All right. Most recently, let's just go to, please help me welcome Renetta Wright.
We're dying to have you on board.
He's the only one around here that makes mistakes.
Good evening to the Chancellor, Mrs. Appleman, and my dear friend, Dr. Evans, and the entire TCC board. I feel like tonight is welcome home, as Dr. Coppola mentioned in the introduction, that TCC has been a friend to me since I started in high school and returning back for summers during college, and then hiring me after I completed my master's degrees. I have grown tremendously from an academic advisor to a coordinator of special services to the assistant director and now the director at Southeast Campus under Dr. Coppola's leadership. I am thrilled to serve a bouquet of 7 departments. I look forward to growing with my teams and growing with the leadership of our campus. Dr. Coppola, Dr. Jackson, my vice president, Dr. DuPont, and all of the leadership, they invest in me and they see my potential, and I'm just pleased that they are allowing me to serve in this capacity. So thank you so much.
I'd just like to highlight a couple of activities. There are no cemeteries on this list here, but last month I talked about our partners in the K-12 and university setting, and I just want to draw your attention to 3 particular activities. On February 26th with Albert Systems, March 1 with Martin Sprocket and Gear, and then on March 2nd with a Renaissance. In each of those, a number of us went to speak with each of those organizations, and they were very thematic in terms of the success. One, these organizations are very interested in affiliating and working with us, internships, curriculum, students, graduates, and such. but also to support that activity philanthropically was certainly evident in their comments. And so that was a theme of those three, and I see that theme over and over in terms of as we do get out in the community and engage or re-engage with corporate members in the county itself. So thank you.
Thank you, and those who went with you. We appreciate that. Very important. We are going to go into closed session for deliberation of real property, Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code, deliberation on personnel matters, Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, consultation with the attorney, Section 551.071 Texas Government Code, and deliberation regarding the deployment or specific occasions for implementation of security personnel or devices, Section 551.076. There possibly, but probably not, will be action following the closed session. So if you would like to leave, we will see you at the next Governance Committee meeting on April 12th at 2 and at the next Board of Trustees meeting on April 19th at 6 p.m. Thank you for joining us.